Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're jumping headfirst into a scientific quest to solve some of the world's most fascinating and, frankly, bizarre mysteries. We're talking about everything from sounds that shouldn't exist to stones that apparently move all by themselves. We're going to look at the incredible tools science uses to investigate the unknown and find out what happens when the answers are even stranger than the questions.
So let's start our journey in a little town called Taos, New Mexico. For decades, a small group of people there have been, haunted by a mysterious sound. It's a phenomenon so persistent, so strange, that everyone just calls it the Taos hum.
People who hear it say it sounds like a distant, pulsing engine, like a truck idling just over the horizon, and it's most noticeable late at night when the rest of the world goes quiet. But here's the really baffling part. It's completely elusive. Some say that even plugging their ears doesn't make it stop.
Now, you might be thinking, it's just tinnitus, that ringing in your ears. But check this out. The key difference is right here. Tinnitus is internal. It follows you everywhere you go. The Taos hum, though, it's tied to a specific place. People report that when they leave the region, the sound just vanishes, only to pop right back up when they return. That makes this a genuine environmental puzzle.
So the Taos hum is this strange auditory enigma. But some mysteries are way more visual. Let's turn to a really stunning example, the bizarre, self-moving sailing stones of Death Valley. For over 100 years, people would find these huge, heavy rocks in totally new spots, with these long, impossible tracks carved into the dry lake bed behind them, and nobody had a clue how they got there.
Okay, so let's dive into this. When you're faced with something that weird, where do you even begin to look for answers? Well, it turns out science has developed this incredible toolkit for peering into the unseen, whether it's deep underground or hidden in the data that's all around us. Sometimes the answer is hiding deep underground, and we've gotten really good at developing tools to see what's down there. And this isn't just about digging a hole. It's about using amazing technology to map the Earth's hidden layers with incredible precision. Take a look at this. One of the ways we can probe deep into the Earth is with technologies like hydraulic fracturing. This diagram here shows how. To get to resources more than a mile down, engineers build this super secure channel of steel and cement. It's pretty amazing. This kind of tech, originally designed for energy, really shows off our ability to interact with the deep Earth precisely and safely. Now, what's really fascinating here is how many everyday things are used in this super complex process. Just look at this table. The gelling agent, it's guar gum. You'll find that in biscuits. The scale inhibitor, ethylene glycol. That's the main ingredient in your car's antifreeze. It's a pretty surprising look at chemistry in action, right? But what if you used that kind of deep probing tech, not for energy, but for treasure? Well, on the famous Oak Island, a team did exactly that. They used something called muon tomography. Muons are these tiny particles that rain down from space and can pass right through solid objects. So by tracking them, you can basically create a map of what's underground, almost like giving the entire island an X-ray to find hidden voids or tunnels. They've even used this to look inside the Egyptian pyramids. And this is a brilliant illustration of how we're literally using particles from space to hunt for what could be hidden chambers or lost treasure. After 8 long months of collecting data, the scan pointed to what experts called a high-density anomaly deep below the island's famous money pit. They even nicknamed this potential treasure trove Aladdin's Cave. Okay, so we've talked about actively probing the Earth. But what if, instead of doing that, you just listened? I mean, really listened to the environment with extreme precision. This is the approach that's being taken at places famous for strange phenomena, where the goal is to capture hard, objective data during some very subjective events. At places like Skinwalker Ranch, a location that's famous for all kinds of wild stuff, from UFO sightings to weird creatures, investigators are setting up these dense sensor arrays. The system, called MUPass, is constantly measuring everything you see here: electromagnetic fields, radiation, infrasound. It even tracks biometric data from the people on site. They're hoping to catch a ghost in the machine, so to speak. So, with this incredible toolkit of deep Earth probes and hypersensitive sensors, what have we actually found out? Let's go back to our original mysteries for the verdict. Let's see where science has totally succeeded, where it's hit a brick wall, and where the investigation is really just getting started.
All right, first up, the Sailing Stones of Death Valley. This was a puzzle that had scientists and tourists scratching their heads for almost 100 years. People had all sorts of theories: crazy high winds, strange magnetic fields, even aliens. The truth, when it finally came out, was way more elegant.
So in 2014, researchers finally caught the stones in the act. The answer wasn't some mysterious force, but a delicate four-step dance of ice, wind, and water. A really rare combination of conditions lets these huge, thin sheets of ice act like sails, pushing the rocks ever so slowly across the slick mud. Mystery solved?
The simple, beautiful solution for the stones makes our other mystery, the toss hum, even more scientifically frustrating. While one puzzle fell apart with a bit of patient observation, the other one has stubbornly resisted every single attempt to measure it. Back in 1993, scientists launched a full-scale investigation in Taos. They brought in sophisticated acoustic and vibration sensors, and while people kept reporting that they were hearing the hum, the instruments, they picked up absolutely nothing out of the ordinary. No sound, no vibrations, nothing. It's left this strange, unbridgeable gap between what people experience and what our science can actually measure. And this brings us to the ongoing investigations, the ones where the data is still pouring in, the conclusions aren't written yet, and the results are being hotly debated by scientists as we speak.
Remember that sensor network at Skinwalker Ranch? Well, after 3 years of collecting data, the research project claimed it had found something big, a 4.5 sigma correlation between their weird sensor readings and the journal entries of people who reported strange experiences. Now, in statistics, sigma is basically a measure of how likely it is that a result is just a random fluke. The higher the sigma, the less likely it's a coincidence.
So here's the crucial point. In fields like particle physics, a 5 sigma result is the gold standard you need to officially declare a new discovery. So 4.5 sigma is a very, very strong statistical signal. It means this correlation is super unlikely to be just random chance, but it's not quite considered definitive proof by the wider scientific community. Not yet, anyway.
And of course, this is where healthy scientific skepticism comes in, which is an absolutely essential part of the process. As critics rightly point out, just because two things happen at the same time, like a strange sensor reading and a person having a weird experience, it doesn't prove that one thing actually caused the other. Correlation is not causality.
And that leaves us with a fascinating final thought. From the solved mystery of the sailing stones to the stubbornly unsolved Taos hum, this whole quest for answers really tells us as much about ourselves as it does about the world. It pushes the absolute limits of our perception and our technology. And, maybe it reminds us that the greatest mysteries aren't just about finding the answers, but about the amazing questions we dare to ask in the first place.